we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a reality talk again with Sonia and Gary. I'm Gary from Alternative Interactions, and you are?
Sonia from the Tree of Knowledge.
And this is to continue our little series of chats and talks, really, which is why we call it reality talk. And again, we've called it Sonia named it reality talk when we first did this. And I think we should, before we start our chat, I think we need to put a bit of sort of context into that. I am a realist. Sonia, I know, is a realist as well.
Mhm.
And we sometimes don't put fluff around certain subjects. We say it how it is. Reality talk. However, please bear in mind, and we're going to get to this at the end, because obviously Sonia and I have a chat beforehand, that we're going to come up and actually express some of the reality of how and what a good position we really are in. Okay, because I see that, and so does Sonia, and sometimes it gets lost in our conversation about, oh my God, what they talking about, or that sounds terrible, that's negative. It's not. We're just talking about certain points of reality that we see what's going on, but in the bigger picture it's actually positive. So Sonia, would you agree with that?
I would absolutely agree with that.
So today we're going to be talking about time. Um, we and that will lead on to certain other things as well. So time is a huge subject, and the construct of which that we're educated at school and how we're told about the watch going tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, really is a false paradigm. Why wouldn't it be? We've never been told the truth at school or anywhere else. And
Mhm.
so when you start to become when you do a lot of research, I'm a researcher, not awake, not aware, nothing like that. I'm a researcher. When you do a lot of research, you start to come across certain paradigms that do not make sense under our current time constrained reality that we're told and fed. We create our own reality. So if we're told that time is linear, we will create, via the collective consciousness and reality tunnels of this realm, a linear time scale. But in actual fact, that is completely wrong.
Mhm.
Now, I see it very similar to Sonia, but Sonia has, because she's able to remote view and look at a bit deeper, put some really interesting bits and pieces on that. So for me, I'll just start. For me, I see time as being a spiral coming from us directly. We don't go backwards and we don't go forwards. The only thing that goes backwards and forwards is our conceptual nature of the brain. Our brain gives us the illusion of going forwards and backwards, but actually there's the now period, and it's like a whirlwind. It's not a line that goes up. It's a funnel almost, and within that funnel also works the funnels of time and space and different dimensional frequencies. So we're
Mhm.
kind of doing this all the time.
Mhm.
And I know that sounds quite complex, but that's the way I see it. Now, Sonia, over to you. How do you see it, and what do you think of time and space in effect? Because space is actually time and not out there.
Yeah, yeah. Space has always been inside of us. When
Yes.
I look at time, I always envision a toroidal field, a round circle. It's a toroidal field. Inside of the toroidal field, and we have a toroidal field, and even in everything has a toroidal field, including us. We have a positive and a negative. We do this figure eight through this entire toroidal field, and it keeps going and going and going. And I call that toroidal field that we're in the spiral because it is, if you turned it sideways, it is the spiral. It is the spiral because it's the toroidal field spiral. And where you go in that moment, and every moment is that crossing of the positive and the negative line. That is where you are in that moment. That is the now. And everything is in the now. So the now is consisting of more than just we think singular, we think one level line, 2D, whatever. No, think of this toroidal field being on every D, and it's comprised of multiple frequencies. These frequencies are your 9 dimensions, and with each dimension are 12 densities inside of the one dimension out of the nine. So we have the capability. It's like having a smartphone, and the only thing you know how to do is turn it on and off. That's it. That's your total knowledge of your smartphone. Your smartphone might have 1,000 functions. And what's happening now is we're learning how to use those functions because of where we are in this schematic. So when I look at time, a long time ago, when this place was first created, this sim was created, everything was running on using the entire phone, the entire toroidal field phone, okay, with all of its functions. And we could be in all different dimensions because of the frequencies we could control because we did not have a chakra system to lock us down. We had 100% capacity. Our heads were much bigger because they have shrunk our brain size down, because in the shrinking, they also got rid of material in your head that we used to contain to run these functions. It's like I've just deleted access to these functions. So that's why you can find in history heads that are much bigger. And we think, oh, those are alien. No, that was us. That was us.
Is that the cone-shaped heads that
Yes,
we see? The
yes,
skulls with the
yeah, yeah. And
elongated
everyone goes,
skulls.
oh, those are the aliens. No, that's what we used to be like. That's who we were when we were in the beginning of the schematic. This is what we've become. You know how I'm always saying we are caveman? We've become caveman.
Yeah.
So what happened was after the first reset, they needed to redesignate humanity because it was humanity's takedown. And what they did was they changed us genetically, and they gave us false information of how time runs. And there's your linear. That's where they inserted only linear. You've got this one linear line, past, present, and future, and that's all you have access to. That's it. You don't get anything else. That's it. And then it's so much easier to control and dictate you. And then, of course, we had in the very beginning, we had a different system of time because they had to slowly graduate us into more degradation. So our first system of time was done by the moon, and we had seasons, we had equinoxes. We ran by equinoxes. In the spring, we popped up like daisies. We were busy, busy, busy. We did all of these things. In the summer, we were still fulfilling all of that. And in the fall, we started to slow down, harvest everything we did for the, that time frame, because our calendar actually started in March, not January.
Yes.
So basically, by the time we hit winter, that was the time of rest. We did no work. We survived off everything we did in the 75% of the first half of the time for the year. So our months were also really taken down. We had a calendar that actually worked. Yeah, somebody had discovered it from 1775 or something, where we only had so many days and we had 13 months. And the days were not like the days we are now. Everything ran by the season, depended on what you did. It wasn't like now. So what they did was when they changed the calendar over, they're like, okay, we're going to take this down one more notch, a bigger control. Now we're going to get rid of the moon cycle. We're going to get rid of the equinoxes, and we're going to put in hours and minutes. Because on hours and minutes, one of the reasons we had an entire cycle of a season through the equinoxes is that we had 1/4 of this time frame to rest and recover for the next 3/4 of a lot of work. And our bodies, our avatars, were designated to have a downtime. Now we have no downtime. There's no such thing as downtime. And as time has progressed, it has even gotten worse. At one time, we had off Saturday and Sunday, 2 days at least a week. Now, no, depending on where you live, you're working 24 hours a day. You're lucky if you have a day off and you're still working from an entire season of downtime. So, this is the digression of how the human society has been so taken over. And all of this is being done with this time for loosh because it puts you into a pressure cooker where you can never recover. You can never recover. And now they have even gone so far by trying to convince you that you only need 4 to 6 hours of sleep. So it's like now you can't even get recuperation from sleep. Now people are expected to work 16 hours a day. 16 hours a day. I mean, it's gotten really bad. But when we go back into looking at how time was, let's go back to the beginning. We had the ability to basically move in and out of frequencies at will. Not, oh, it happened to me because of an emotion I'm carrying and I match that frequency, because that's what's happening now. We match a frequency now and we can be in and out of densities or even a frequency, but most of us it's densities because we never leave 3D, but there's 12 dimension or densities inside of this dimension. So back then, we not only had the ability to go in and out of the densities, we could go in and out of the frequency dimensions, whole dimensions. And this reality was actually designed with portals that if you met a certain frequency, you could just walk through the portal and you're someplace else in another whole dimension. This is what the Sasquatch do. They create the portals inside of them. They walk through it because they still have all of those abilities. They have what we lost, what was taken from us. So would you like to add anything to that?
No, no, that was brilliant. So we have been given the conceptual nature of linear time,
Mm-hmm.
but we would have been we're a toroidal field living inside of a toroidal field of a toroidal field of a toroidal field, okay? And each toroidal field I see is a different dimensional frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can imagine your radio and you can tune it to something and you can listen to a song, and then if you go up the radio, you can higher up on the frequency band, you can then get another station, and you can, and so this your radio in this case has 12 stations that you can go from the bottom one to the top one. And what Sonia's talking about fundamentally is that we had the ability to go from station to station with just the twist of a knob, and it would have been something that was built inside us, and it would have been a conscious spiritual ability of, oh, I'm now going to go into the next dimension. Open your eyes, or walk through it, a portal would appear, or you'd open your eyes and you would be there.
Mm-hmm.
And you could then have a different frequency
Reality.
experience.
Mm-hmm. And I have noticed that when Wendy and I were doing this, we were starting to do this a lot when we're together. I've been doing a little bit with Arthur, where it's like, we can also, another thing that goes with this is time, the illusion of time. You can slow time down to where it's not moving at all, or it's moving at a very slow speed, or you can just go into what we're in now, which is the ascension, and it's going. You don't even have 24 hours in your 24 hours. I think we're down to like 16
Yeah, I
in
agree.
life.
Yeah.
But we have the ability when we manipulate these frequencies to go into a density or even a dimension where you don't even have to go through a portal. You hit that frequency, and the way this is designed, portals are nice. You can see them, you can walk through them. What's even nicer is the ability to just flip the switch or the channel without using a device. A
Yeah,
portal is a device.
in here, isn't it?
Yes. And then you're actually controlling what you're doing is you have a biofield around you and you're tuning your own biofield, which I always say the biofield is your soul. 80% of your health is in your biofield. It is who you are. It doesn't all fit into this avatar. You can tune your biofield to any frequency or density. And in the moment you tune, you're already there. and you can feel the difference. And this is how we've been practicing going in and out, not just me, the common person, depending on their emotion. Emotion carries a frequency. Emotion carries a frequency. That is huge. The emotion pushes into a frequency. So when you become very leveled and you're high and you actually can feel yourself thinking high, and then you're up here and you feel like you're up here, that's when you can manifest things out of the ether. So what are you doing? Are you manifesting things truly out of the ether? Yes, but that's not the only thing you're doing. You're also traversing timelines, and you're going to the timeline that best suits you in this time field.
So one of my big theories is that within all the dimensions, and literally all of the dimensions, we have the same schematic. And what I mean by schematic is they all have trees, they all have
Mhm,
grass, they all have
mhm,
flowers, they all have
mhm,
animals that look very, very similar. Now, obviously, the higher dimensional frequency we go, consumption of meat and anything particularly is not needed. And so the animals know this and are friendlier. Okay. And so an example of this would be you're walking along the street, you're happy, you're in a little bubble of daydreaming, and you're in a higher dimensional frequency. You're still in the same street physically, but up here, your dimensions above. So we're in 3D and there's 12 levels. Okay.
mhm,
You could be at level 10, 11, or whatever it is in the 3D frequency. And at that point, all of a sudden, dogs start running up to you and they want to be your friend. And all these dogs are friendly. The cats come up to you, they want to fuss. Birds, squirrels, deer, whatever, you walk past them and they won't bolt.
mhm, mhm,
We
mhm,
experience this. All of you would have experienced this at one point or another in your time where, oh my God, that bird was suddenly really close to me. Wow. That's because
mhm.
you're in the right frequency of the 3D level to bring that in because your energy frequency, your toroidal field has changed. But the perversion of that is also that when we're put under stress via the constraints of the societal construct that has been placed upon us by the demonic deletes and dumb elites to feed off our loosh, it brings us down to the lower levels of the third dimension in levels 1, 2, and 3, 4. Yeah.
Mhm.
And at that point there, we are consumers. We consume more food, we consume more alcohol, we are unhappy, and we're pushing out our toroidal field is then pushing out an energy field that repels animals because it doesn't fit into what they can accept as what their toroidal field, their energy field is, and so it's a repellent.
Yep, that's actually true. And that's why I'm always saying raise your vibration. Because what you will experience will be less than this pain, less than that torture. And even when horrible things come at you, I'm always telling people this. We need to learn how to deal with this traumatic crap coming at us, whether somebody died or you lost something or somebody said something about you or stabbed you in the back or what. That's a million reasons. Always take yourself in that moment out of being you. This is your friend's, your best friend's problem. And you're going to think of a solution, at least a partial solution. And when you do, then you'll step back into the scenario. Okay, it's my problem. Thanks, friend, for giving me a little bit of a heads up on how to deal with this. The first thing you don't want to do is react. You do not want to react. You don't want to go down that road. It was done on purpose so you can react. Because remember, look, this is a loosh farm. So when you then have the feeling of, okay, I got even a slight scenario of how to fix this or where to go from here, you go back in for a brief moment, experience, oh, damn, I can't believe this happened again. Scream, yell, shout, cry, do whatever you want to. And then you have to let it go, release it. So you've experienced it, you've dealt with it a little bit, you've experienced it, and then you let it go. What this does is it keeps you in resonant balance. And this is so important. We need to remain balanced. Okay, so we're off a little bit. Boat got a little rocky. Guess what? We're back in balance. This causes your frequency to remain at a certain point and continue up. This causes your chakras to come off. And when your chakras come off, oh my God, you have skill set because other parts of your brain that you never had access to are now available for you, like your phone. You've discovered the apps, so you can start using these apps and become the better version of you. And they don't want this. They don't
No.
want this. This is why they keep throwing stuff at you. No, react, react, react. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's the reaction and the emotion of the reaction is what they want. It's
Yes.
part of how they feed off us and part of how they control us, in fact. And many people who hold on to that reaction and action and that energy can then be persuaded very easily to do something that they would never normally have done.
Yep.
Okay. And we've
How's this?
seen, go on.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
So we've seen this throughout history where we've been told that certain cultures have done certain things and um unalived certain other cultures, and they were in this frequency band of control. And something I say continuously is we observe it, but we do not absorb the energy. So what Sonia was just talking about was, oh my God, your friend's in trouble. We have empathy. We're empathic creatures. We can feel the pain, but it's not our pain. So we must step back from that, become the third person, think about it logically or however you work things out. And if there's no solution at the time, the only thing you can say is, look, I have no solution for you, but I've got the feeling that it's going to work itself out. And so if you can change that person's vibrational frequency and raise that, that in itself will be part of the solution to then drop in that emotional entanglement of what's going on within them, because sometimes we can't always fix it. And this
No.
is another part of the problem with our society and our control mechanism is the externalization of our power.
Oh, yeah.
When we were children, we would fall over and mum or dad or whoever would come up and then, oh, there, pick you up, give you a kiss and a cuddle and wipe you down. And what did that teach you? That
Somebody else
taught
is
you,
coming in to rescue you.
there we go. There's an externalization. Somebody's going to come and rescue you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you get to a certain age, all of a sudden, no one's going to pick you up
Mm-hmm.
because you're bigger now, and it's part of the learning. Now, obviously, a young baby or child, very young child, of course, but there is also the parenting that I've seen, which I think is amazing. Is when that child falls over and starts to cry, and I've done it myself. Come on, you haven't hurt yourself. Get up. Come on, get on with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not being cruel. That is empowering that young person to stand in their own power and deal with what they were going to do. Obviously, if they really hurt themselves, you'd sort it out. But most of the time, when a child falls over, they haven't hurt themselves sufficiently to warrant any kind of intervention or medical intervention. And in that way, you're teaching them from a young age that self-empowerment and reliance upon themselves, being holding their own power, their own space as a child, is the way forward to becoming a more balanced adult rather than expecting somebody to come to you and give you the magic solution, like something that goes there, or
Mm-hmm.
here's a pill, take the pill, and I mean at the moment we've got this weight loss thing, this is it an injection or tablet or something
Oh,
everyone
God.
seems to be taking, Ozempic, I think it's called, something like that. Now, there's two ways of losing weight. You can stop putting it in there
Mm-hmm.
or put the right things in there.
Mm-hmm.
Or now you can take a pill or a potion or a dart finish and it's done magically for you. And so, what are the majority of people doing? They're taking the easy option because
Mm-hmm.
They have been taught over time that there's a savior out there, and the externalization, they've given their power away to somebody, and they've given their bodily autonomy to something else.
Hmm. Yeah, it's always the come and save me, Superman, because I can't save myself. I can't see that I'm Superman. And we've this has been done deliberately. Deliberately. Well, it's profitable. Think about that. Everything in this reality runs around profit. Doesn't run around, I care about you. It runs around, what can I get out of you? What can I, what money? It all comes down to the cursed Babylonian money system.
Does.
I mean, it's terrible. But I do want to talk about one little thing about time. I had a meeting this morning with one of my clients, and she was asking me, look, I keep seeing myself in some kind of funerary thing, and I was somehow involved in it, and then I keep seeing fire. And I'm like, oh, I have no idea. So I'm a remote viewer, and I do what I do best. I go in remote view. So I went inside of her. Let me tell you how remote viewing also works. It's not just grabbing things out here, it's going inside of you. Every single being, energy being, carries all the answers. You're an eternal being. You have gone through countless incarnations here. You have had many existences outside of here. You still carry all of that. It's in your subconscious and superconscious. So you are a walking library. And all I'm doing is going to your library. So when people ask me to go do this or go do that, guess what I do? I go into the only place I know where the answers are for you, and that's inside of your library. So I was remote viewing inside of her, basically Akashic records, which is everyone carries their own set of Akashic records, which is frequency memory encoded in your subconscious and conscious, connected to source, because it's a reciprocal. But anyway, this is what I saw. I saw when this schematic was first designed, before the first reset. Let me make this very clear. Before any reset, I saw that human beings literally they thought differently, they were designed differently. We won't go into how they were designed too much, but they were. And they had the ability to transverse all of these dimensions. But they also knew that the avatars were temporary housing units. Basically, it's your car. Your car is not going to last your whole lifetime. And even if you stick a lot of money into it, by the time you've done what you've had to do to keep that car running, it's probably got a new engine, a new transmission. It's had body work, new seats. It's not the same car anymore. Okay. This is what the stupid elites have been doing to their bodies. Basically, do you understand what I'm saying? So what I saw was they had this ritual they would do. So they knew they had crystal technology, and they knew when your aura started doing it, exhibiting a certain sign where your body was going to stop working, and you were going to be having to leave because the body was done. It was done. It met its very end. It couldn't continue anymore. And they would take these shrouds, which are blankets, sheets, what have you, usually comprised of cotton material. Do you remember those old cameras they had when they had plates in them with silver, and they would put the camera thing blind over their head and take a picture of you with something standing here, and poof, you turn black? It was a long time ago. They had something silver in there. I saw that same silver substance material. They would take these tubs, and they would take the shrouds and put them in this silver substance. And then they would, and these shrouds were big because it would cover your entire body. Then they would hang them up and dry them. And when it was time for you to start passing, because your biofield would, if you had the technology with the crystals, they could see exactly the moment you're going to pass. They would lay this stuff over you. And just like the pictures, your body would make that flash and imprint that onto the shroud. And this was a common practice done. So I wondered, well, what happened to the body? Well, the body wasn't done like it is now. Then, as soon as you went out, they would take the shroud, the body would go and they would burn it. It would be burned. It would not be buried, it would be burned. They would take the shroud to their house. They would hang it up. People would come over. They would have a funerary thing that everybody comes and meets, and they would talk and they would laugh. And because they knew death was not the end, and you could still be hanging around. And you could even go visit that person because you had the ability to leave the avatar here. So you didn't go through the crying process. You didn't go through the grieving and loss. There was no such thing, really. Some people would cry because they're just like, I remember, I'm so joyful, I'm crying. And after we had that first reset, that earthen technology with the shroud was lost, just as the technology for creating the concrete, the old concrete that just gets harder and harder, which is comprised of volcanic ash, lime, and seawater. Those three things got lost. So now we make shit concrete. So now what happened was, since they lost that ability, they put all of the importance on the body because they no longer had the shroud, because they didn't have the chemicals of the shroud. And you can't just go take a cloth and put it over somebody and it imprints in. There had to be a medium in between that material and a chemical reaction to your body every time. And you've heard doctors say this, every time someone dies, they can actually weigh the body and it's a little lighter.
21
Or
grams.
well, or where they've had cameras and they've caught the energy being leaving and it does a flash. That flash with that chemical in that shroud was what imprinted. So we have to look at the shroud of Turin. So if everybody had the shroud, why aren't there more shrouds? And let me tell you what I saw. Remember when I said she was always seeing fire? So after several days of, everybody came to visit you, you're dead, they're looking at your image on this thing, that is you, that's a part of your energy in there, they would release you. They made this shroud into like a pyramid shape, and the whole middle was open. And they would take a hot poker, it was a ceremony, and put it in there. As soon as the hot poker started to get there, it started to catch on fire because of the chemicals in there were so volatile that as soon as the hot poker got into it and put in there, it just burst into flames. It was a long poker too, because they were so volatile, these chemicals. And these chemicals were used because they could capture the silver and they were volatile. So that they would always burn the shroud afterwards, and then dust to dust, dirt to dirt, dirt to dirt, dust to dust. And then that would be the end of I think it was a 3-day ceremony. I keep getting 3-day ceremony. And then everyone would be like, okay, and then go on with their lives. Period. We lost that. We kept some of it. This is why we have funerals. This is why we have wakes. This is why we have whatever. We kept some of it, but we lost the most important thing. It was never the body. And they would never have gone around a dead carcass body. They immediately burned that body because it starts to deteriorate. And that isn't who you are anymore. And they certainly don't embalm you and sew your eyelids shut and sew your mouth shut. That is what they do today. That's the inversion of. They kept that body in its pristine. Within less than several hours of you passing out of that body, it was already burned. That's the difference. There was none of this grotesque stuff that we do. And we've made it commonplace. Oh, it's nice to see dead Uncle Albert sitting in his coffin for 3 days in my living room. Oh God. But I thought it was really interesting. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Gary.
yeah. For me, the burial thing is a hangover from the Egyptians, and I think it was more of a trend in the sort of like 1700s, 1800s, to now, where we were buried, because there are no there's no signs of any real dead bodies apart from a few skeletons that are found every now and again. But fundamentally, we don't have old skeletons. We don't have old bodies, which kind of
Mhm.
makes sense. Um, Now, we were talking before about this, and Sonia told me about this, and she said the Shroud of Turin is fundamentally a throwback of this event that would have happened.
Mhm.
Now the Shroud of Turin, straight away went, "Oh my God, it can't be that old though, can it, Sonia?" And she went, "No,
Oh,
no, 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 it's a modern version of it, but it was used in a similar way, and it is quite modern, and it's not that old actually. I think I mean, it's old, but it's not Jesus old. Let's put it
no.
that way. Um, but that is an example of a really good example of the kind of thing that Sonia's talking about that would have been hung up and 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 because of the multi-dimensional frequency abilities that we had then, we would have been able to converse with that person still via the shroud. It would have acted like a portal almost, wouldn't it?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so you could have said your last goodbyes, or you could have had a laugh and a joke with that person over that ceremony, and then that went. But it didn't mean that person was gone, obviously, because one of the things that we understand fully still today is that energy is never created or destroyed.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you can say to me, Gary, really? Okay, then let's talk about electricity. Um, we have an electricity meter in the UK, and the electricity comes in, it goes through the meter, goes round the house, can be used, but comes back into the meter and goes back out again. When we have a gas meter, the gas comes in and there's no return. So gas is burnt and used. Electricity flows and goes back down again. Electricity is not used. You're only being billed for the current or the amount of current that's gone through the and around the house on the devices you've used. The same amount of energy that went into the house comes out of the house.
There you go.
Bingo. And that's a real like ugh. So when you understand how this works and the con of it all, there we go. It's just another
Hmm.
control mechanism for this, the Babylonian cursed monetary system. Now,
Yep.
Sonia's brought up some really interesting points, particularly about the ancient times and that, but also I want to take a step back again now into something that I see as a positive. Okay, so we're talking about all this stuff, and I want to bring a positive into this, because Sonia and I both agree that we're very close to the window where we go through into something else where we're no longer in this realm's control anymore. I think is that a good fair way to place
Well,
it?
that's perfectly. Yep.
So we live in a multi-dimensional realm, which is 3D, inside another multi-dimensional realm, inside another multi-dimensional realm, inside another multi-dimensional realm. And when we start looking at time, if you can imagine, not although I see it as a toroidal field, as a wave, you know, you turn the toroidal field, look through the top, and you see the infinity eight and all the bits and pieces. And I have got shows on this, and got I've done this sort of work and proven and shown this as such. But if we go to a slightly different idea of a silver thread, so we are have a silver thread that goes into us, which is our connection to source. Okay. That silver thread goes up to the creator. Okay. But it doesn't just go straight to the creator. It goes through every single multi-dimensional level and layer till we get to the creator. Now, this is something that's not often spoken about, okay? And for many of you listening to this, is going to be very, very new. We are in a third dimensional frequency. We're going to use 3D, 5D in because so for the understanding of, okay? We're in a third dimensional frequency and we have a thread goes all the way to the top of the
Hmm.
creational energy of everything that is, has been, and will be. And it's a thread. It could be a gold thread, silver thread, whatever way you want to look at it, it's a thread. But to go from here, which is 3D, and say say the creational energy is 12D. Let's make it really easy, okay? So we're in 3D and the creator's 12D. We have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, where our thread goes through. And as it goes through that thread, we are actually in every single dimension as well at the same time as being here.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about connecting to our higher self isn't necessarily in 12D. Our higher self that's guiding us and supporting us could be 6D, 7D, 8D, even 5D. And it's another version of ourselves that's looking after us via this golden or silver thread. Now, in 3D at the moment, we're going through a huge change. One that's I say not happened before, I don't know, but it's something that's a very, very, very rare occurrence where we are going to come out of the 3D and go into another dimensional frequency. Commonly, everybody says 5D, okay? So we'll use that analogy. True or not, I don't know, but we're going to go from 3D to 5D. And it looks like that we're going to go into the 5D intact in our current avatars,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I think, the rare thing. Okay. Now we're connected through the string. When you break one of those strings, the gold string or the silver string thread, when you cut that, it ends all of the strings.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Mm-hmm.
important.
All
So
of them. You're
all of them.
disconnected. Because once you're disconnected, what were you connected to? Source.
So you are no longer connected to source in the 3D. But the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11D versions of you have no grounding.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, that piece of string is flapping away and it's gone. And so you then cease to exist in all the other dimensions, bar the 12th dimension, which is source. But you then have no way of coming back down into the realm again that I can see as an easy way, an easy fix.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the end of you and your thread lineage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, we're currently going through a system of all this ID, digital stuff, um, transhumanism. We've gone through all the 10 dark finishes and all the bits and pieces, all the poison that they've been giving us, the control mechanisms. And
Mm-hmm.
that's because the third dimension was taken over by a 10 Cathara grid system, which I call the Fibonacci sequence, which is Metatron's cube, which is the Merkaba, and all the bits and
Mm-hmm.
all the things that people will use as a guide to a guide externalization of their power again for their meditations and stuff. This is actually feeding off their loosh. This is feeding off your loosh when you entertain anything Fibonacci. Okay. I have videos about this. If you're not sure what we're talking about, please go to my Fibonacci and crystalline code. Now, the crystalline code is the creational energy that goes from 3D all the way to 12D. That's that's the makeup of the toroidal field on every single layer that I can see. And I've shown this through the double slit experiment and stuff, okay? And that's as technical as I'm going to get on this one. But if we in the 3D succumb to the new Borg Homo sapien system, eventually our connection, our silver cord or gold cord to the 12th dimension will be cut and
Mm-hmm.
we will be lost and we will fail to exist in every other dimension. This is why when we talk about Three Eye Atlas or multi-dimensional craft or an armada coming into this realm to support us and help us, this is why. Because if they don't come in, if we don't come in from another higher dimensional frequencies to ensure that we go through that window and go through into a different
Mhm.
dimensional frequency of the 5D, let's call it 5D, then everybody that would be left and wasn't given the hand by our own higher self would cease to exist. And what would happen potentially is there would be a pancake of all the dimensions down to nothing, because the 3D that supports everything, like an inverted pyramid almost, would
Mhm.
collapse down. Now, Sonia, what are your thoughts on this? And is there another way that you'd like to explain what I've just expressed?
Okay, so as everyone doesn't go into a severe panic, I just learned something the other day. There is a man called Dr. Artis. Dr. Artis was the first person that came out and said that the other half of the you know what was venoms, all kinds of venoms. He has just discovered, because another scientist got a hold of him and said, I've just discovered something and we need to tell the whole world. Just because you had this put into you, they have found a natural way to dissolve graphene, graphene oxide and graphene dioxide, graphene. You're going to get a organic, which means no pesticides, no nothing, tobacco leaf. You're going to boil on your stove for 10 minutes water. You're going to turn that water off. You're going to take that tobacco leaf, you're going to throw it in there, you're going to steep it for 10 minutes, and then you're going to proceed to drink. And they have found that the tobacco, the chemicals in the tobacco naturally destroy graphene, which is self-assembling technology. So don't freak out if
Use
you did
this.
this. If you did this, you're going to go purchase tobacco leaves, and you're going to go find the video from Dr. Artist, which I will give you this video. I did a thing on Patreon where I put it on that last live stream I did too, because this is huge. This is us helping us. A tobacco leaf that's been steeped in boiling water for 10 minutes can undo the AI technologies. We are being sprayed with this stuff every single day too. So whether you did this or not, it's still us too. We have it in our skin. We have it on our layer underneath of our skin, on our fascia, on our neural networking system. It is built in. We're already track and trace, but to a smaller degree, not to mention whatever. So there's that bit of information. Don't flip out. There is an answer. The next thing is, one of the reasons some of the grays had come back into this time frame, into the 3D time frame, because they're not actually in 3D, they're in a different dimension, and they're from our future of what did happen to us. And we keep having this Groundhog Day going over and over and over until we can get it right. Well, we've already got it right. By the population not being completely encompassed into this, we've already created the paradox. The paradox was created because of us coming back to save us, because those that didn't get saved had no more source connection, but they are still energy beings. And they came back so that it could free them. It could free them. Okay? So I'm seeing we've already won this. We'll still do our things every single day. We'll come into more things like the tobacco leaf with the water, boiling water, to steep that in there, to get rid of the nanotech. Okay. Then there's also other things you can do to get rid of the hydrogel. There is a chemical that you can take and it destroys hydrogel. Hydrogel is being put into its technology, it's biological technology. It's being put into bottled water, it's being put into your tap system. You're not getting around the hydrogel, it's put into everything.
Yeah.
So even if you buy sodium citrate, destroys hydrogel. Sodium citrate. So basically, sodium citrate is used for enhancing food flavors, making things last a little bit longer, but mostly to enhance food flavors. It is not a natural thing. It's a chemical, but this chemical can be used to destroy hydrogel. So we can destroy hydrogel with sodium citrate. We can get our tobacco leaf to destroy the graphene oxide and hydroxide. there are things we can do to help ourselves. And this information is coming out now because we already did have a flip in our reality. It's already happened. The moment a chunk of us didn't get encased into this, we created the paradox. And because of the paradox, everything in this, if you can call it linear, anything that's above us in dimensions or what have you, is now undoing, it's unfurling, because all of a sudden you as a gray are no longer, you disappear. You never became a gray. There's no lineage for it. There's no DNA for it. We have created the paradox. Now what we must do is take back our world. And that means you out there need to wake up. What are you willing to do to help this paradox to create the better reality? And don't think Superman's going to come in and do it for you. We are all required in this quest. This is a quest. Think of Arthur. This is an Arthur quest. Who is the golden grail? What is the golden holy grail? It's your DNA. Your DNA is the Holy Grail. And what are you going to find? Christ consciousness, because that's the Holy Grail. It's you. It's always been you.
Yeah. 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 So what we're, and again, this is not medical advice, and if anyone needs to seek medical advice, please see your official health practitioner and all that kind of crap. But and obviously this is just a story, and everything we're talking about is make believe. And please look at my
Disclaimer?
yeah down below to the disclaimer to show, because and isn't it terrible we have to say things like that?
We
Anyway,
do.
yeah,
Because we're working against the largest criminals who own 99% of all the wealth in the reality.
yeah, yeah, we do. So what Sonia brings up really interestingly there is, and it's something the Wizard of Oz, Mel, came up with a good while ago now, a month, 6 weeks ago. We were discussing this, and what it was is we were talking about how on the multi-dimensional levels, if we fail, then we're going to get this pancake failure come down, and it's going to be chaotic within all of the realms are going to be affected. All the dimensions, all the timelines. It's very complex, and we're trying to keep it very simple because fundamentally it is simple. But if you really wanted to get complex, you could probably spend days and hours talking about this stuff. Now, Mel spoke about Back to the Future, and when Marty went back and his mum didn't meet his dad but went with Biff, the character Biff, Marty started to not exist in that realm anymore. He started to phase out and go see through, and he wasn't there. So he had to go back in time to make sure that his mum met his dad and not with Biff. And as soon as Marty's mum met Marty's dad, Marty then existed again in all the realities and all the dimensional frequencies. And this is exactly what we're talking about, if that makes sense to you. And so all the dodgy greys and all the dodgy things that have come out of us from the reset after reset after reset, because they've had to reset us before we've lost humanity fully. And I think that's the reason why we have these resets every 6 or 7,000, 8,000 years, whatever the period of time is. We have a big reset and we start again. We have a big reset and start again, because what we're talking about and what we're experiencing isn't the first time. This could be the 100th time. It could have been the 10 millionth time this has happened. I don't know. But it certainly ain't the first time we've played the violin on this game.
No.
But what will happen is the demonic entities and the greys that are non-beneficial and beneficial will phase out of reality, because we will go back to the whole. And this is what is the singularity. The golden thread or the silver thread will draw everything in that should have always been part of our thread, our connection, and we will become a more powerful being, and the chakras will fall off us. Our DNA will connect fully to where it should have always been, and we will start to learn and remember what the mobile phone gadgets did, what all the apps did, and we're going to start to be able to play, but we're going to be able to play in a safe environment because everybody in that environment is there because they are true, clean, and higher vibrational frequencies of love, forgiveness, and light.
Hmm.
What's your take on that, Sonia?
Yes, absolutely. One of the main things that I am seeing through this entire time, um, I don't know what you call it, it's just the way it's working, is that we have already gone through certain things. I've noticed that in the dimensions, all of them are kind of set on the same program, or they're divided in four sections. And those four sections are like you're going through it to be more refined, more refined, more refined. And they keep going like this. So as you're going through D3, then you go through D4, which is a mental construct to get you to D5, you're still riding that spiral. You're still riding that spiral. And I'm seeing that this was all done so that it could take the negativity that's running in many realities, and it's actually putting them through a frequency sieve, and they're being sieved like you would do flour to make it fine, and it's taking off the negativity, taking as you go and you go up this spiral, the negativity is being refined out, refined out, refined out. This is the divide, the split, the sifting of,
Yeah.
and it's designed like that all the way through.
And this is why I see it looking like a twister, time as a
Yep,
twister. And
yep,
that's
like a
why
twisted.
it's a
Yep,
spiral. And
yep,
that's
yep.
why I see it as a spiral because it fundamentally is. But it's also a crystal, or not crystal, but we have the silver thread or the golden thread
Mm-hmm,
connecting us to the higher self, the 12th dimension, all the
mm-hmm,
time. And so as we spin round, this thread almost grounds us and
mm-hmm.
keeps us in um, a balanced, controlled way via our connection to the higher self. And obviously, if you lose that connection, you then just become an energy source that's spinning around in the tumble dryer and you're
Yeah,
not doing anything or anybody any good, you know?
that's it. And that's what has happened when they merged AI with anything that's an energy being, because energy beings can come in all forms: animals, plants, trees, humans. It doesn't matter where the energy goes, it's there. And in the very beginning, what I saw was they were merging things together biologically. And the moment they took, because they had high technology, and they're like, done playing with biology, this is where you get your cryptids from, your chimeras, and decided way back then that they were going to start merging AI with. That's what caused the reset to begin with. It's a
Yeah,
dead end. It's a dead end.
yeah. And we can actually see evidence of this AI technology and human interface on the walls of the pyramid, not on the pyramid because there's nothing in the pyramid apart from
Oh,
schematics, but on the side of Egyptian temples and stuff, and we
relief.
can see
Oh, yeah.
dog-headed people now, or Anubis, whatever you want to call them,
Oh,
whoever is, you know, but they've if we watch Stargate, we can see that the guards stand there, and then there's suddenly technology, ching 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 ching, the headgear turns up and it's solid, and they're holding staffs that can shoot beams of light and that sort of stuff. They would have not been all human as they are in
mhm.
Stargate. That
Yeah.
technology would have been infused in them, and they would have been half robot, half machine, and half organic. And we've
Yep.
seen this in enough sci-fi things
Yeah.
forever. You know, they're
Yeah.
showing us what was.
Yeah.
And
I was looking at those stargates one day and I'm like, and I was like, oh, I wonder what the material is made out of. And as soon as I said that, I had something come across my screen. And it's like, oh, I've just been recommended this short video, and it's about the Stargates. And it says, what do you think the Stargate material is made out of? And I'm like, I just asked that. And so I played it. And the guy's like, what do you think it's made out of? It was a black guy. And I'm like, mercury. And then he's like, what do you think it's made of? And he must have said it 3 times. And I'm like, mercury, it's mercury. And he goes, it's mercury.
yeah,
I have Arthur sitting here. And Arthur's like, why are you screaming mercury? I said, because the guy's asking me what's it made of. And I'm like, it's mercury.
and again, if we go to Mercury, there's red Mercury that can't be seen in
Yes,
mirrors.
he was talking about the red mercury and he was talking about the other mercury.
Yeah,
And it's actually comprised of the red mercury.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But when we go to Tartarian technology, they had mercury in balls that would spin
Yep,
to create
yep,
frequency or heat.
yep,
And
yep.
and
And
and and
if you get the mercury ball next to a copper curled line, where it's just like this with
yeah,
other copper, it spins the mercury. And all you got to do is get it next to it and it starts spinning on its own. And it's the copper
yeah,
because the copper taking the energy from the ether and all around the sides.
yeah. And so all you would have done is moved a piece of copper or a how can I put this? You would have put a wireless fan. It's hot. You've got a wireless fan, and the fan contains mercury inside it in the vessel, and you would put it onto a plate to ground it next to the copper, and that would have then turned the fan, and then you wouldn't have turned the fan on. There's no switch to turn the fan on. There's no wire. There's no cable to place in. You would have put that fan there, and the fan would have blown, and you would have had free wireless energy that's safe, blowing you lovely cool air from the fan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I saw something once when I was in high school. I picked up a book on UFOs and it said something about they were being run with 3 balls when they had taken apart. There was 3 balls with the liquid, and as soon as I looked into that, I was like, it's red, it's mercury, and it's the 3 balls were electromagnetic. They were like toroidal fields. They were like this Andorra crystal kind of shape, like
Yeah,
that shape.
yeah,
And with it running, as soon it would automatically just run and it would never stop spinning. It would have this low because of it.
yeah,
And what I saw was they would tap into the energy to create the toroidal field around the ship. So the ship could have been made out of Tinker Toys and paper towels. And it wouldn't have mattered. It could go anywhere because you created your own atmosphere inside of this toroidal field. And it does not matter what it's made out of. It could be aluminum foil or plastic saran wrap. It does not matter. And it could do all kinds of things. And because you're in your own field, you could stop suddenly where you would be slammed with the inertia with anything else because you created a toroidal field of your own element, which means it's like you're making your own snow globe around you.
yeah,
And that it does not matter what is going on around here. This inertia will remain the same, whether you're doing 1 billion miles an hour, come to a stop, or you're doing 1 mile an hour, come to a stop. You could make turns like this all day long, and then you could either go slow or be gone.
yeah.
And what I also saw was with that material, you could do interdimensional travel. So where are they going? They're not going anywhere. They're here, just in a different dimension.
Yeah, yeah. One of my crazy theories many years ago, when I was looking into this, is we live in the toroidal field, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and you could call it the big snow globe, the big, cosmic egg almost. Was strange. Everyone, yeah,
Oh,
the
I
big,
saw that. It flashed.
yeah, it did, didn't it? Big cosmic egg almost, and we have snow globes kind of off that as such, or toroidal fields happened again. How weird.
It's flashing.
Yeah,
I've noticed over the last couple of days we've been having flashing too. The sun simulator
that's the
simulate.
sun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The sun
it's the sun
simulator is
flashing.
blinking,
Yeah,
blinking, blinking.
yeah. But within this great big cosmic egg, and the way I see it is slightly different. I don't see anything on the outside necessarily of the toroidal field. I see everything inside this toroidal field.
Mm-hmm,
And inside this toroidal field is everything. So we have one toroidal field, big toroidal field, and it's
mm-hmm,
like the Russian doll.
mm-hmm.
So if you imagine that the Russian doll is a toroidal field, within that Russian doll are all the other Russian dolls, and every single Russian doll represents a realm, a frequency, a reality, and everything is happening within that one Russian doll, that one toroidal field
Mm-hmm.
consciousness. So even
Mm-hmm.
though we've got the made big cosmic egg, inside the cosmic egg, which is a toroidal field or torus field, we have everything else. So
Yep.
when we're talking about going to different dimensions, that's why I said the schematics, trees are everywhere. Everything, everything is as it is, and that's why I think we also have some really old buildings like castles
Mm-hmm.
because in certain dimensions, those castles are whole and they're
Mm-hmm.
working and they're perfect. And what
Mm-hmm.
we see is a shadow
Mm-hmm.
of what they once were, but because they're part of the holography, they still remain. There's
Mm-hmm.
still something there of them, the same as some of the Tartarian buildings and all the stuff. I mean, Mel said, "Oh, they must have been 3D printed," and she's probably right. They were 3D printed, but they're in every single holography. So when you go from one dimension to the next, they look the same, they feel the same as such, but the energetic frequency that we are in changes what our interaction with that realm would be.
Mm-hmm. I will tell you this too. When you start to ascend, and I'm going to give you this because of myself. When I was in my 30s, I was 5'4". When I was in my 40s, I went to the doctors and she's like, "You grew an inch." I'm 5'5". I had come over here to France and I had to go to the doctors because you have to. And he clocked me in at 5'6". I am growing. I'm not getting shorter as time would have you believe, because time is not what you think it is. People that are ascending are going to start getting height on them and they're not going to know why. And start measuring yourself. You're going to be like, my feet are getting bigger and I'm getting bigger. I went from a size 6 shoe to a size 6.5. I could not get my foot into a size 6 shoe anymore. It's now a full 6.5. My feet have grown and my height has gone up 2 inches.
Yeah, I'm laughing, Sonia. I'm only laughing because the Wizard of Oz behind me is going, same here, same here. Her feet have grown and she's got taller. And I actually had some new shoes recently. And though I've worn a 10, I've always been a 9 because I've got wide feet. And I'm now finding that even though I brought 10s, my toes are to the end.
Yes,
So I
we're
have
growing.
grown a full size in shoe. And I've also noticed recently, and I had to do this in the car, that I had to adjust the mirror up, the rear view mirror, because I've gone too tall and the mirror's facing down. And so I've had to adjust the mirror. So I've probably grown about an inch and
Yeah,
my
yeah,
feet have certainly grown the size. And say the Wizard of Oz behind me, Mel, she's had exactly the same
yeah.
experience.
And I just wanted to mention that because how does that work if everything is set? It shows you that there's no set anything and that time does not work like you do. I'm going to be 60 years old, and I've had people say, "You look younger now than when you started YouTube." And it's like, well, I am growing. I have the intention to not age anymore. And all of us will get to this point where we'll stop aging and you'll start going backwards, 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 backwards.
I had a knowing. This is probably 3 years ago now, maybe longer. But I got this knowing, and I was like, oh my God. And I'd only really just started doing the pendulum at the time, so it would have been around 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I got this come into me, and it was like, "You're going to live for another 100 years, Gary." And I'm thinking, 100 years? No. That means I could pass when I'm around 150 years old, I'm thinking, oh, that can't be, can't be. So I get the pendulum and I ask the pendulum, and it's a big yes.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Because it'll extend our time frame. It will. We at one point lived a thousand years. We did, but
Yeah,
we were so taken down that we're literally dying at the age of a child,
yeah, we are.
and
Yeah,
we're pre-aging. We're pre-aging terribly because of messing with the water and messing with the food. But a lot of it's the water. The water is the life. It's absolutely everything.
yeah.
So I mean, I was looking into the other day, I was looking into plasma, our plasma in our bodies. And I talk about the mitochondria in the blood, and that it's the stuff that turns on real bright and it goes off to create the luminosity. And that's how you're able to move, is because of the mitochondria. And I'm seeing that it's starting to affect the plasma. And when it's affecting the plasma, it's actually giving instructions for this ascension.
So I think one of the key things that we're seeing with the ascension of us, I mean, people talk about us going to a more crystalline body. I think we probably are. Certainly, our heart's moved, and our kidneys are moving. All sorts of things are changing and moving around in our body. I think our appendix is now working, isn't it now?
Yes, it
Rather than
is.
just
It's
being,
finally working. It's a detoxing thing.
yeah,
And that could be because we were able to eat everything here. Like the birds eat these berries, and now if we eat them, we'll die. So it's starting to up and run where we could start eating things that would normally kill us.
yeah, yeah. But don't try that at home, please, anybody.
Don't try
Please,
that at home because
no,
you're
no,
probably not there yet.
no, no, no. But what we're seeing now is signs of ascension in the physical, like growth, bigger feet,
Hmm. Hmm.
and aging. I mean, certainly the Wizard of Oz, similar age to you, and does not look her age.
We go out, and Arthur had an intention years ago when I first met him online. He's like, I'm going to never age past this age. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. So now when we go out, everyone thinks he's in his early 20s. He's 34. He's 34. He's not 21. And
Yeah.
everyone's calling him young man. And they're like, oh, you're not very old. And then I was talking to the people downstairs, the woman downstairs, and I told her how old I was. And she was like, I'm 65. She looks like she's 65. And she's
Yeah.
like, you're 60. I mean, it was just like, say that again. Say, excuse me, say that again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually look like I'm about 45.
Yeah. Yeah. So does the Wizard of Oz. No problems passing as 45,
I,
but this then ties into what I was showing 3 years ago with us living another 100 years. Now, wouldn't it make sense as well, everyone, that if we've gone through this toil and strife in this particular avatar, the avatar's upgrading, we're going to go into a different vibrational frequency, the 5D. Let's just use that terminology for everybody. We're going to go into the 5D in our avatar as we
mhm.
are. Well, wouldn't it suck if we all fell down dead 5 years after reaching the epiphany, we've got into Shangri-La, and all of a sudden we're all going to die because we're at that age? No, that ain't happening.
Oh,
We're going to be given another lifetime
mhm,
to repair and grow and spiritually ascend to the further place so that we can truly have an amazing, wonderful time
mhm.
and experience what we should have been able to experience here now that was
Yep.
taken away from us. And I really feel that very, very strongly. You know, could you remote view that? Am I correct in my assumptions, please?
Okay, so while you're talking, I'm actually seeing this, and this is exactly why, because there were so many incarnations that we had to get through to get to this point, because of the takedown of what had happened in the very beginning of the schematic. And yes, once you hit the 5D, your life will be, it will be, you'll literally go back. You will not be looking like you do. I will not look like I do. We'll go back to the age of about 30. We'll
Yeah,
hit like 30 and then be given time. And you will not top out like you would here. No, it's going to be a different kind of a topping out. You, instead of, okay, so from being born to your 75, you top out. You should have lived 1,000 years. You're topping out, and you're barely out of being a small child. You're probably like 12, maybe. You haven't even hit puberty yet. So when this happens, you will be given a full lifetime, a life. You'll go into the natural system that should have always been, that was taken from. So you go back to being 30, and then you'll progressively, after so many years, top out. But it
brilliant.
won't be short like here.
No, no. And for those of you going, these two are talking total tosh, fair play. Let's go back to the Bible because everyone knows the Bible's, although I don't think the Bible's correct in many ways, the
Mm.
Bible does have
True.
historical nuggets that are very, very valid. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Noah was 600 years old when the flood happened.
Mm-hmm.
Great flood of Noah, he was 600 years old. And I think Noah's last child that was born after the flood, I think his wife was something like 800 plus years old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so that is an age. And so
Mm-hmm.
Noah was probably 700 years old when his last child was born, and his
Mm-hmm.
missus was 800 and something. I think 875 comes to mind. Now, I know I'm not correcting that totally, but the point is made very clearly that a biblical book, a book that has got an awful lot of historical stuff in it, maybe not quite correct, is clearly showing people of advanced age.
Yeah. Which then, if you have to look at that advanced age, you're going to have to look at the biology. Think about when you're born as a female, you're born with all your eggs intact. And we're told that by the time you hit 40, you're losing material in your eggs and you can have Down syndrome babies and everything else. Well, how does that work for 6 and 7 and 800 years having children? There'd be no eggs left. another another thing to think about.
Well, this is very interesting, and this is a conversation that I've had with Miten, and we had a Discord chat the other day, and Talusa, she came on, and Miten has done a video just recently, and they're talking about the moon, and it's very, very likely that we have a pre-moon period and an after-moon period.
Of
Okay,
course.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
pre-moon, women may have menstruated once a year,
Yep.
or the
Yep.
woman, when they wanted to become pregnant, would have then consciously, because
Yep.
we're more in touch, we weren't slaves to the body.
Mm-hmm.
The woman would have constantly decided that she was going to become pregnant with the man, and the cycle would have begun, and she would have felt fallen pregnant.
Yep.
Soon as the moon came, 13 cycles, whether you like it or not, you
And
are
you know what that
forced.
does? Every time you have a menstruation as a woman, your body is having to work overtime. It's like hemorrhaging out. And the trauma that puts on your body, I mean, trauma, trauma, trauma.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So if you really are interested in this subject, and I'll put a description down in my link below for this particular chat with Meten and Tallulah. Oh my God, they're off the charts, and it's another level, everybody. It's another level. But
Mm-hmm.
what they're talking about, I fully agree and fully resonate with, and
Mm-hmm.
it links into the time that we're talking about and all the bits and pieces. But they're backing this up with books and
Mm-hmm.
all the bits and pieces, and it's also linked to human design.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
fascinating. So
Mm-hmm.
so when Sonia and I talk, it appears that we're talking out of a one-dimensional kind of way that we're talking. But but we've both come to this, our understandings through research, Sonia, through years and years of remote viewing different things. And when you remote view one thing in isolation, another thing, eventually you start to see the pattern and the things collect, and you then start to see a story. It's exactly the same with my research. And so the more like-minded people we meet, the more knowledge we get, the more information we get, the more certain we are that what we're talking about is actually correct.
hmm hmm And remember, whoever is the victor, it's always his story. There's your history. That's why history doesn't actually match with archaeology.
Yes.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
And then just have to sweep that under. Do you know how many archaeologists have lost their license to even practice because they wouldn't go along with the artificial agenda? They're like, well, here it is. There's the proof. And then they'll fight to get their message out. And then, of course, the elite, the cabal will do everything they can to collapse their personality, to collapse their credibility. And then if they don't shut up enough, kill them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean,
Mm-hmm,
there's something called U parts, which U parts are things that shouldn't fit in the historical narrative, which is a load of tosh. Okay.
mm-hmm,
2 miles under the ground, coal miners have found wagon wheels, gold, jewelry, all this sort of stuff. Is, I mean, years ago, coal used to be sold in blocks, and you'd buy the block, and then you'd smash the block up at home,
mm-hmm,
and people would find coins inside, silver coins
mm-hmm,
inside these blocks of coal that had no relevance in any way, shape, or form to anything from history that we know, right?
mm-hmm,
But it's
mm-hmm.
2 miles under the ground.
So
What
how many
what
resets?
That's the point. What reset was that? You know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when I'm looking at these resets, there's a couple of things that causes the resets, but it's always the same kind of thing. The ground gets liquefaction,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then stuff comes in. I'm always saying outside of this snow globe, we have a huge ocean that ebbs and flows. The ebbing and the flowing isn't like when we go to the beach and we got little waves hitting us or big waves, depending on if there's a storm system. But the thing of it is, they're still coming in like this. Where there's an ocean so large, you could fit 1,000 snow globes in it, our little snow globes. And when it ebbs and it flows, it's ebbing out and flowing in. Could take hundreds of years. And it does come back in. And then we're in for a flood.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm,
yeah. And the realm itself has coping mechanisms for this.
mm-hmm,
One of them is something called a vapor canopy. And
mm-hmm,
we know that we've lived under a vapor canopy previously. And what a vapor canopy is the vibrational frequency, which is called liquefraction. That's the technical term, liquefraction, creates vibrational frequency. And that frequency fundamentally sets off earthquakes and volcanoes. And we
mm-hmm,
get a lot of material put up into the sky as all this water comes in. And the
mm-hmm,
water evaporates up into the upper layer and gets trapped with the volcanic ash and creates a barrier between us and the sun.
mm-hmm,
Okay, that's why the sun gods, you have 7 original gods in mythology, and then once the vapor canopy collapsed, which is one of the vapor canopy collapses was Noah's flood, we then
mm-hmm,
have the sun come out, and all of a sudden we have the sun god, and we're suddenly worshipping the sun god because suddenly
mm-hmm,
this thing's come out from the flood. But this vapor canopy creates a higher oxygen content and a nitrogen content, and it creates a blanket over the world, over the realm, and so we
mm-hmm.
get a continuous temperature everywhere.
Yep. And
And so
growth, add growth.
yeah, and mad growth from the oxygen. But that also means that Antarctica and the North Pole and such like go ice free.
Mm-hmm,
There's no
mm-hmm.
ice. That's why
No.
we've got maps of Antarctica that are correct from 500 years ago or so, because there was another event, around that period as well. But what we actually have is everything gets bigger. We have giants, and we
Mm-hmm.
have the dinosaur story, which
Yep.
isn't. It's just the animals that are around us, so everything's
Yep.
bigger. Everything
Yeah.
gets
About
bigger.
monitor lizards and any kind of lizards, and there's your dinosaurs.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And again, this refers back to the thing of his story, the history, and the linear timeline that these people have put upon us. We're
Yep.
talking about all parts, things that don't match, events that the officialdom will not recognize.
Mm-hmm.
We know it happened, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and we know some of these resets were instantaneous, and we
Mm-hmm.
know they were instantaneous because of the fossils. Because the fossils, I mean, okay, how many leaf fossils have ever been produced that you see? When a leaf falls from a tree, it hits the ground and it rots over the winter, doesn't it? And,
Yep.
and turns into mulch, and the worms eat it and everything else. And yet we have fossilized leaves.
Leaves. And not only that, butterflies. You you cannot have a fossilized butterfly. I'm sorry, you cannot.
You can't. It's impossible. Start thinking
No, you
about this one.
cannot. Yet we've got fossilized butterflies. We've got fossilized leaves. We've got fossilized this and that. And you're like, wait a minute. Was there no ecosystem? Because in a natural ecosystem, we have things that would eat anything that died. We've got our ants, we've got other bugs, we've got all kinds of things.
Mushrooms, fungi, even
Yep.
in that
Yep.
respect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. There are a lot of fungi that will dissolve material, especially leaves. They will. They'll just
Yeah. But what's really interesting as well, we have fish eating other fish. We have
Mhm.
animals consuming other. They're halfway into the process of swallowing something,
Yeah.
and they're being fossilized.
But don't you know they stayed still like that for millennia?
I
And
believe
including
that.
skin. Their skin didn't even deteriorate because they're a whole
No.
thing.
And the other thing we have, which is again is a huge proof, okay, is the mussel beds that we have fossilized, and all
Mm.
the mussel beds, all the shellfish are fossilized shut.
Mhm.
Now, if you know anything about a shellfish, when it dies, the mussel relaxes and the shell opens.
That's right.
And so you must never ever eat a mussel that's open because it's dead and decaying and will give you a very, very bad bellyache.
Yeah.
But we have beds, thousands and thousands of these fossilized mussels that are shut.
Hmm.
That can only mean one thing.
Hmm.
At the time that they died, they were actually alive and they were fossilized instantaneously.
Instantaneously. And there's proof of this everywhere through archaeology. It's some of the things you really can find. And I love how they created the dinosaurs. You know, there's never been one real dinosaur bone found. It's been a bunch of other bones and a lot of artificial bones being created.
I mean, that there was a foot of the T Rex, and I think they found a few teeth, and I think there's a foot of a T Rex. But when you actually look at the foot of a T Rex, it's identical to an emu, an ostrich. It's exactly the same foot. And you think, so we know we're under a vapor canopy and everything grew big.
Hmm.
And we know ostriches and emus don't have particularly their wing they can't fly. They've got small arms, okay?
Yep.
And we have a T Rex, and the tail feathers is now a long tail. And a few years ago, please Google this, they officially announced that T Rex had feathers. So T Rex is
It has a
emu.
social narrative because people are like, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it.
I mean, how but this is the lie of the time. This is the
Hmm.
timeline lie. This is
Yep.
how they've controlled us. And this is how they make us believe in history in the past and the
Hmm.
future. And
Hmm.
something that's very, very interesting. And while we're doing the time one, I've got to mention this. Okay, is Jason of Archaics has done something called isometric projections. Okay,
Hmm.
and fundamentally, he talks about time being water in a bucket, and you drop a pebble in the bucket, and the timelines ripple out. But they
Hmm.
don't only ripple out backwards, they ripple out forwards.
Yes, we do.
And if you can pinpoint the year in which the metaphorical pebble was dropped into the bucket, you
Hmm.
can predict what will happen in the future because it's already happened in the past.
That's right. That's right.
Now, history repeats itself, but with differences. And that's because as the ripple goes out, the historical events will repeat themselves, but there will be a difference because the energetic frequency and what's going on with the consciousness and the collective consciousness's growth or devaluation or regression of that growth, consciousness wise, will affect the timeline event. Now,
Mm-hmm.
one of the ones that really, really got me was in England several years ago. We had a prime minister called Boris Johnson, corrupt as anything, still is corrupt, connected to the Rockefellers, full works. We're talking about dark family ties here.
Hmm.
But it was worked out that 1998 was one of the metaphorical pebble events. And when you went back in time from that time, I think it was 1974, we had another prime minister called Ted Heath, who again has got a very shady past, particularly with youngsters. Okay. And I'm not going to go any
Hmm.
further there, but you look it up and you see exactly what he was. He was a prolific predator.
Hmm.
But when we talk about the political side of things, he didn't finish his prime ministership. He didn't, and for Americans presidency, he wasn't the prime minister or the president full term. He failed and was ousted. And it was predicted very clearly that Boris Johnson, being the isometric projection time wise, would not fulfill his term in office. And he didn't. Now, what
Hmm.
happened later was we had a prime minister called Liz Truss, who was ousted by the money people because she actually had the illusion that she actually had some power and wasn't a yes woman. So they got rid of her very quickly. And then they installed Rushdie Sunak, who was a yes man, who was involved in the crashing of the economy in 2008, one of the walls of Wall Street, and all the rest of it, blah, 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 blah,
Hmm.
and also was given a load of money in an offshore account in the Cayman Islands to buy stocks in Moderna, ready for the making money on the 10 dart finish.
Hmm. That
Okay,
was lucrative. Taking
very
that
lucrative.
policy. So our taxes paid for that. Okay. Then the lucrative is after that, then once you get ill from all of the side effects, you're going to be going and giving more. So we've paid with our taxes to be ill, then we're paying with our hard earned cash to get better. And this is a win win scenario for our evil one cabal driven country government. There's no
Yeah,
such thing as countries, there's only companies, LLCs, corporations, whatever.
yeah. And it's all about misery, feeding off the loosh, and making
Mhm.
money out of the misery. Okay,
Oh,
but
yeah, absolutely.
but what was very clear in this timeline was that 74 was the isometric projection of or the holographic reflection of 2023, whatever it was, for whatever, I can't remember now, but it was 22, whatever it was. It was the identical reflection year, and so
Hmm.
you can see things. Now, that's just an example, but what I've just said means that time isn't linear. Time doesn't work
Hmm.
how it works. And
Hmm.
if things that happened in the past can affect the future, then everything is linked energetically and there is no such thing as time.
Right.
Okay?
I
Which,
always think of the singularity point, the butterfly effect.
brilliant analogy. Brilliant analogy.
Hmm.
But this then goes back to what Sonia and I have been talking about today about the greys and the holographic. If we don't get out of here and our threads cut, then the pancake effect and what we're now going to be seeing, and I hadn't put this together, so thank you, Sonia, is that some of the greys are going to disappear because we
Mm-hmm.
holographically have changed the timeline to mean that we're going to ascend out of here, which means that that timeline or that ripple effect that was created back in the past, that ripple will not happen anymore because we've affected the change of when the pebble dropped in, and so
Mm-hmm.
changes the nature of reality.
Yep. Creating a paradox.
You can get your head around that one, everybody. so, so I mean, I'm aware of the time as well, Sonia, and I think we've covered this one really, really well.
I think we did too. I was just going to say, oh, our poor listeners.
I know, but hopefully this has made sense. And you'll also take out from this the positive message that we're sharing on this one, that
Mm-hmm.
that pebble and the paradox has already happened, and
Mm-hmm.
we're now watching time in the reality of what we have to for the consciousness and the collective consciousness of the reality of the realm play out so that we can get to the point in which we can get out because
Mm-hmm.
it's preordained because it's
Mm-hmm.
going to happen. We just have to ride the story and the waves out of this and not get emotionally attached too much in anything that happens, knowing that we're already out of here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I guess on that note, that's a good note to end on. So I would just want to say for all of my viewers, have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. And thank you for watching this to the very end.
Yes, thank you very much. I know it was a heavy one, and some of you may have to watch this a couple of times, but the information is key to us moving forward in a positive, wonderful new world. And with that, love, light, and blessings, everybody. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.